What do we have here? A new TRX4? Wait, that doesn't make sense. That's not a TRX4. Hey everyone, welcome back. You're watching the Anderson Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today we have some really nice weather. You can see it is really nice here. Today we're going to do something a little different. Actually got some mail today, and we'll dive into that in just a second. But before we dive into that, I just want to take a moment and thank everyone for watching and subscribing and supporting the channel. It is greatly appreciated. It does keep us going. Sorry for the wind. I'll just move over here. So basically what we're going to do today is we're going to convert the stock Vanquish Phoenix build that I have. It's a portal build. We're going to convert it over to a new chassis. So I'm sure you, as you see by the title, it is an Artful Dodgers chassis for the VS410, a non-pro / ultra. One of the reasons I purchased this is I wanted to give it a shot. It is one of the most recommended chassis on Facebook. I just did the Rock Pirate build on the straight axle, so why not do this Artful Dodgers on the portal build? So I am going to jump into the unboxing of that chassis from Artful Dodgers, and then we're going to install it. Without further ado, let's go ahead and make it happen. We have a package with a Fox on it. So in this package is a VS410 Artful Dodgers chassis. So it's a complete swap over for the Phoenix straight axle or portal VS410 platform, and this just came in the mail. It took roughly 15 days to get here. I think that it's coming from Poland. Note that I live in a remote area, so it takes an additional 2 to 3 days to get this. So immediately was provided tracking information after I purchased this. Within 24 hours was provided this tracking information. I was also provided a link to go to see international tracking and also the US tracking all in one location, which was very nice. So kudos to them. The overall ordering process was very easy. Everything is seamless. They give you the directions, the download links, all of the stuff to put it together. We'll go over that in the review of the chassis itself, but for the time being, I just kind of wanted to give you an overview of the package itself. So the kit that I got is the Ground Fox version 2.0 VFD twin kit. I'm going to put my portal kit in this chassis. With that being said, let's go ahead and open it. You can see that the packaging is a little rough. They did not treat it very well. I'm guessing that maybe you know, it was opened by customs or whatever the case is, but it has been not handled with care, so hopefully nothing is broken. Let's open it up. We do have a, these are a couple of little cardboard packaging pieces. I'm guessing it's for support to eliminate stuff from being broken. So let's So it looks like that this is the envelope. Nice one in there as well. Nothing else in there. Inside of the envelope we have the, looks like the skid and the micro servo mounts for the transmission, and then also the sliders. I don't know what this is. Bumper support, looks like. Putting bumpers in, front and rear. And then this appears to be a servo or winch mount of some sort. I'm guessing servo mount. And then we have additional micro and regular servo mounts here. So all of these are labeled very nicely. So we have package 1, we have package 2, 3, and 4. Then we have these carbon chassis. So not sure. Let me see if I can turn on the light here. Get a little better visibility on this. I did etch the logo into it. It does look quality. It doesn't look like it has any blemishes or issues. It is held together by a couple of zip ties. And then finally, all parts aside, we've got some, looks like some documentation here. itemized cost list. Looks like maybe a sticker of some sort. And then we have this nice color manual. Let's take a brief look at that. So it does specify that it is for the Phoenix. Pro and Ultra are different because they have different transmissions. And then it's got a image of what the chassis looks like together. And then this is just the same documentation that you would get in the download. Let's see, and then this must be the directions on how to put it together. So you go bag 1, gives you tips, tensions, etc., etc. You can see the tips at the bottom. Oh, no, no, no. This is actually the TRX4 axle mount that I purchased. Yeah, so that makes sense. This is not part of this chassis. This is actually for a TRX4 axle mount servo. I just kind of showcase what this looks like in the package you would receive. So you would not receive this in the kit. This is an additional price, but the chassis and then all of the bags 1 through 4. All right, so let's look at the directions real quick. It says we're going to need the transmission, the axles, the links, drive shafts, shocks, and electronics, and that's it. So I'm going to break the truck down real quick and take all of that stuff off. Wouldn't recommend using a drill, but I'm going to do it. If you are going to use a drill, make sure you've got it set on 1, the clutch on 1. It's not going to prevent these screws from stripping out, but it will prevent anything from getting stripped as easily. The clutch will engage something like this, so it does stop bad things from happening, or is supposed to stop bad things from happening. Don't really need to take the wheels off, but I'm going to do it anyway. One of the other things I'm going to do as I do this swap is I will be changing the motor from this Mamba motor to a Fusion Pro. So I guess the Castle motor. It's not a Mamba motor, it's a Castle motor. Got these zip ties, we don't need those. Not sure how we're going to put the winch on there yet. It looks like the servo does mount this way instead of this way, so I guess we'll see how all of that's going to work out in due time. To get to the suspension, normally use something like this Tupperware bowl to keep the parts in as I'm doing the project, whatever it may be. Start with the rear suspension bits. We can lift this up and over, back, and slide those in there like that. Now we're going to pull off the links. The longer screw went to the upper link, the shorter screw went to the lower link. And just like that, the axle, shocks, and links are removed. The drive shaft extension, or I guess slip joint, did fall out, so we'll put that there. So now that the rear is out, let's go ahead and do the front. The front suspension is held on by 2 bolts here, one on the shock tower. So the front has a little more going on. Front has a touch more going on because it's got the panhard bar and then also the steering servo, so let's take those out. The servo is detached. Front axle is almost ready for removal. All we need to do is simply remove the Once those are unscrewed, you can simply pull them out like such, maybe. Pull them out like that, and now the front axle and shocks are removed, and then you have your panhard bar and your steering. So we will set this over here like so, and we will grab the slip joint for the drive shaft there. Go ahead and remove the transmission rope. You have the 2 screws holding it up front, and then you have, so there are 3 screws holding it to the skid. And we're going to have to move in order to get to the second screw over like such. And this screw that holds it to the skid plate here. And you heard it fall out, so that screw is good. And that eliminates everything needed for the time being from the chassis. So we're left with this chassis here. I'm going to set that aside for now. Here is the transmission and the engine. You can see that I did grease that, and it has gone everywhere in there. We are going to remove this motor because we're going to put a Fusion Pro in it. I much prefer the Fusion Pro over this. We'll see in a second. I think it's a 2800 kV motor. So we'll take that off. We'll pull this out like such. And then, so it looks like this motor is a 2850 kV motor. There's nothing wrong with it. It works. I would just like to eliminate the ESC combination out of it. So this is the motor we'll be replacing that with. We are not sponsored by anyone, but Hobby Wing, if you're watching this, wink, wink, hint, hint. Anyway, so let's throw this in there real quick like. So this is the Hobby Wing Fusion Pro everyone rants and raves about. It is an all-in-one motor and ESC, meaning that the motor and ESC are right here. So you do have the the receiver plug, and it not only does it provide power to the receiver through the motor, but it also controls the motor. So yeah, just for all of those folks that don't know if it fits or not, and there is trimming required on going into the VFD twin. So this transmission, so it does, see it just slides in there like that. It does take a little bit of manipulation. You just kind of push forward a little bit and it slides right in. So this transmission is compatible with the Phoenix RTR, so the straight axle version and the portal version of the Phoenix VS410 kit. So just an FYI there. It does work. You saw it here. Saw it here on the Anderson Bros Outdoors, that it does work indeed. Now we just have to line up the holes. Oh, also when you're installing this, the cord should come out right here on the top passenger side of the transmission. So yeah, it should work that way. That's how I have it set up on my other rigs. So we're going to set it up like that on this one too, because like I said, it just works. So we're going to throw that in there like that. So we don't want to snug it up yet. We just want to tighten it enough to where it's not going to move a whole lot. Then we're going to grab this other screw here that is covered in grease, and we're going to slide it on in on the other side, and you can see that slides and screws in right quite nicely. Again, we'll leave enough room to be able to manipulate it. And then finally, we want to put on the spur gear. So the spur gear needs to have just enough of the set screw going in to find the flat spot on the motor shaft like such. And now you can see we have got it right where we want it. We want to slide it in ever so slightly. Then we're going to tighten it down. So make sure not to strip it out when you're tightening it, and then also you want to tighten snug one screw and then snug the other one before you tighten both motor bolts down all the way, and then check to make sure you have, so this is adequate. It's not too tight, it's not too loose, it's easy to turn, so we can go ahead and cinch this down the rest of the way. You just want to check again that it is nice and loose on there, because there are times where you do cinch it down and those bolts will move the motor one way or the other, so there's that. We are going to put this cover back on because that is greasy, and yeah, so there you have it. New motor is installed. Okay, so now we have all of the pieces. Let's go ahead and check out El Manual. Step 1. It looks like step 1 we were just simply putting the chassis together. We might just do what we do. Let's start by taking off these zip ties. Start with bag 1 here. Just pull these parts out. Alright, so we do have a 3D printed skid, which is interesting. And we do have the 3D printed sliders, which again is interesting. So, let's see what we have over here. Alright. So let's pull these and put them into the screw bucket. We know the difference because the stock Vanquish screws are black and these screws are not. So it looks like the M3 by 10 millimeter. These go on the very back in this hole here, and it gets one of these handy dandy spacers. Some more 3x10s go up there, yes. Now, final form, I would go ahead and throw some Loctite on these. I'm not going to Loctite them yet. I will pull everything apart and Loctite it at some point in the future, but for the time being, we are not going to do that. All right, we're ready to go rip. We got her together. I'm just kidding. All right, so unfortunately, as I was recording the overall build process of this truck, we did get some extreme weather and I ended up losing the footage. So we left off with the chassis in the front and the rear supports, and that's it. So a couple of things to note. I'm going to flip this upside down. There are pieces that fit between the skid and the chassis. Make sure you have those in there before you get the sliders and skid on. Otherwise, you'll have to take that stuff back off and put it in there, and it's just kind of a pain. You will need to put these screws in here. They are the smaller black screws. It does come with a big silver screw. Do not put that in there. You will break your skid. I did put the front and the rear ports in, and then I moved to the skid, the servo mounts, and the sliders. Actually, one thing you're going to want to do before you put the sliders on, at least the passenger sliders, you're going to want to put the screw for the third link for the front axle in there, because that can't get the screw in once you have the slider in place. Once I did that, I was able to then put the axles in. You can see where the rear goes back, and then the front, and then the third member in the front, and then the fourth links go in the rear here. Links are very easy to install. No issues there. The upper links in the front and the rear, you do have to use the lock nuts, so you don't have to worry about a Loctite there. And then moving up, you can see that we did put the shocks on. The shocks do have lock nuts as well. They use, I believe, 20 millimeter bolts with some spacers. And then once that's good to go, you pretty much have a rolling chassis at this point. The next thing you'll want to do is install the transmission. So there's 2 screws by the dig, and then there's 2 screws that go up with 2 plastic pieces up front. It's hard to mess up, really. And then the next step is to install the servo. So the servo, again, has the lock nuts. It has 2 pieces. It has the servo mount itself, which is aluminum, and then it has the panhard mount that goes in there as well, so don't forget that. I screwed the panhard mount to this before I put this in place. It makes it much easier to get the panhard in there, because it does have a lock nut on the back. Before you install the servo, it is a good idea to take this front piece off, install the servo, and then make sure you turn the servo on, because you're going to have to reclock the servo horn. Just note that that is going to be something that you'll have to do. If you don't want to do that, you can get a shorter link. I do have one ordered, so that way I can have the servo horn straight up and down. I just don't have it at this time. But that's pretty much it. I did design and print these mounts for this body. I am going to put a Vanquish Pro body on it. I have one, but it's in too good of shape. I don't really want to mess it up, and I've already rolled it a few times, so I am nervous about it messing up the Pro body, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to order another Pro body. I'll probably paint it flat black or something and put some lights in it and throw it on. The next step, I think, once I get the Pro body, I will design some mounts for the front and the rear for bumpers. I'm not going to do that yet until I have the Pro body, so I can know exactly where to put them. That is the overview of the truck after it's been built. Let's go test it and see how good it works. All right, so before we go test it, we're going to do a comparison of before and after. There will be a couple of clips before the chassis migration, and then there's going to be a couple of clips after. Enjoy. All right, so the first test we're going to do is try and run up this board at 60 degrees. All right, so test 2 is this infamous wall climb that I have on a lot of my videos and shorts. The reason for that is right by the house and it's easily accessible. I don't know if we'll be able to get it with the portal. I know we can get it with the straight axle, so let's give it a shot. There we go. Just have to choose the right one. Drag up there. Just like that. Nothing's ever made it up this. I doubt this one, but we'll give it a shot. Oh my god. That is the first truck to have ever done that. Let's do the review. It is a little windy, so I'm sorry about that. I like doing it outside. We'll start at the beginning. The packaging, less than ideal. I'd be very upset if my carbon fiber chassis was broke because of shipping. So I'd like to see a little more thought put into it for the price. Really, most of the money in my eyes are the hardware. If you go to Ace Hardware or something and buy bolts, nuts and bolts, I mean, 10 of them is going to be 10 bucks. So then 10 nuts is going to be 10 bucks or more. But if you're getting a large purchase, like I'm sure these organizations do, such as Artful Dodgers, you're getting a significant discount on that. For $286, $290, I would like to see a little better packaging with it. I didn't have any issues with anything being broke. I think that realistically, you know, the skid and the sliders are 3D printed, so the margin there is pretty big. Anyway, moving past packaging, I would recommend doing a little better job there. Ship time and really overall order to ship time was phenomenal. Great job there. It does take an additional 2 to 3 days for me to get things when since I'm in a remote area versus if I were to be in a major city or a hub. So that's no big deal. Now moving into the installation, the instructions kind of sucked. The breakout was really just breaking out 4 different bags, but they all had the same breakouts. And it would be very nice to have an installation video or something. Maybe there is one and I didn't see it, but it'd be very nice to have a little better documentation on the installation process, because I did fumble through it a lot. It probably took me 4 times longer than it needed to. And so I can see where some newcomers that just get into the hobby, such as purchasing a Phoenix RTR, like, hey, I want to get a better chassis, which one do I get? And everybody recommends Artful Dodgers, and they're like, okay, so they buy it, get it, and they're just like, I don't know what to do. Instructions could be a little better. I would say maybe make a video on it or something, you know, like this one. Outside of that, I don't really have any issues with the chassis as a whole in terms of everything else. Once I got done installing it, you could see from the clip, and I want to talk about that. So the climb up the board at 60 degrees, I was not able to do it either time. So I don't think that was a limitation of the chassis. I think that's a limitation of the tires. And so I didn't actually do it again for after chassis upgrade. The rock climb, I did clip a lot of that, so it took 10 attempts before I was able to successfully do that. I didn't want to make this video 4 hours long, so I trimmed a lot of that out and just put in where I did finally make it. And then so once the chassis was migrated to the Artful Dodgers chassis, or the Fox 2.0, if you will, it did only take me 2 or 3 attempts to get it. Now there is some additional bonus footage there. You do see it climbing a additional climb where I do state that nothing has ever climbed that before, and it made it. So I am extremely impressed. With that being said, I don't want to add any more length to this video, so I will be taking it out today, actually later on, and we're going to make some more footage of it at our favorite crawling spot at the spillway. Be on the lookout for that video, but for the time being, just know that I'm extremely satisfied with it so far, and there will be more footage coming out very, very soon to see and then make your own assumptions on if it is a good purchase or not. I'm happy with it. I hope that you enjoy the video. Please like, subscribe, share. We appreciate all of your support, and have a great day.